Now, with all the stories making the headlines this Sunday night, it's the ITV News.
Devastation in Mississippi after a powerful tornado hits the southern state. Dozens are dead, injured or missing after the deadly storm left a trail of destruction. A federal emergency has been declared.
Thank God we're alive, but also we're so devastated by the loss.
Here, ministers pledged to crack down on antisocial behaviour, starting with a ban on so-called laughing gas.
They are the residue of drug taking. We need to make sure that our public spaces are orderly, that they don't become arenas for drug taking.
This is ITV News with Lucrezia Millarini.
Good evening. Rescue teams in Mississippi are picking through the trail of destruction left by a powerful tornado, which has killed dozens of people and destroyed thousands of homes. The storm system ripped through the state and neighbouring Alabama. Earlier, President Biden declared a federal emergency for those worst affected areas. And there are warnings of more powerful storms to come. Here's Geraint Vincent.
There are places in Mississippi where just 2 days ago there were houses and schools, bustling businesses and shops. Now there's barely anything left. Trees uprooted and trucks thrown together. Testament to the awesome power of a storm which destroyed everything in its path.
Thank God we're alive, but also we're so devastated by the loss. The whole trailer park behind the building is gone, and we don't know where everybody is.
Survivors here tell stories of how their homes collapsed around them. Others weren't so lucky. Neighbours say Robert Lee was killed as he tried to protect his wife from a falling beam after the tornado picked up a trailer home and slammed it into the side of their house.
Kind person, very bubbly spirit, always outgoing, wonderful teacher, outdoorsman, and just an all-around great person.
President Biden has ordered federal assistance to be sent to the affected areas. The tasks of repair and recovery are beginning in what remains a dangerous environment.
There is a lot of hazards within this debris, and unfortunately there's been so much loss of life, which is just heartbreaking, but we often see additional injuries and additional loss of life after a disaster because of the type of hazards that are in this debris. So please listen to your local officials. If there's roads that are closed and barricades, please don't go around them. That means that there's a hazard over there.
This storm came in the middle of the night. Survivors described being caught in its fury for no more than 5 or 10 minutes before it moved on, along a path that can be traced now in piles of wood and steel and shattered lives. Geraint Vincent, ITV News.
Here, 200 barrels of reservoir fluid, including oil, have leaked into the water at Poole Harbour in Dorset. A major incident has been declared after the leak this afternoon at a pipeline operated by Perenco. It's now under control. The ban on nitrous oxide, otherwise known as laughing gas, is among a raft of measures to be unveiled by the government as part of a crackdown on antisocial behaviour. Ministers say possession of the gas will be a criminal offence and there'll be stricter controls on retailers selling it for misuse. Critics argue it won't act as a deterrent. Shihab Khan reports.
This has become a rather common sight, used laughing gas canisters littered around. Kerry Donaldson used to do hundreds of them on a weekly basis, unaware of the dangers. It's left her paralysed in her 20s and she now needs a wheelchair for the rest of her life. She's not sure how to stop people using the drug.
I do approach them and I'm like, this is my situation and this is where I ended up for doing it. I don't really try and say to people, oh, don't do it, and like push them off it, because if you push someone off something, they're going to want to do it more and they're not going to want to listen to you.
But that's exactly what the government plans to do. Tomorrow they'll be announcing that nitrous oxide or laughing gas is being banned as part of their crackdown on antisocial behaviour. The gas is inhaled and gives a brief high, and it's the second most used drug for 16 to 24-year-olds.
Those silver canisters of laughing gas have become an increasingly frequent occurrence. People, when they walk down the street, when they're in parks, they see them. They are the residue of drug taking. We need to make sure that our public spaces are orderly, that they don't become arenas for drug taking.
The ban goes further than the recommendations of an independent review that was commissioned by the Home Office, which said it would be disproportionate given the level of harm that's associated with it.
Banning any drug hasn't ever stopped them from being used, and I think what it actually has done is driving up the harms from their use, particularly because people are then not going to be able to look for legal medical support when it comes around.
Politicians are pushing for this to be banned. Many have in the past admitted to taking Class A drugs recreationally. What do you think about that?
I'm quite shocked, honestly, that when we're talking about creating criminal records for young people that are using these substances, someone that knows what the consequences are and that has managed to escape without any sort of consequence is really quite rich.
The ban is one part of the government's new plans to crack down on antisocial behaviour. Another includes punishing those who vandalise to clean up the damage they cause in high-vis clothing. Labour say after the Conservatives' 13 years in office, the measures are just more of the same.
We've got to judge this government on its record. It has been in charge now for 13 years, and in that time, community sentencing has fallen not by a third, but by 2/3.
Full details of the plans are expected later this week, and the government is insistent their latest measures will stamp out the issue of antisocial behaviour once and for all. Shihab Khan, ITV News.
Tens of thousands of people are protesting on the streets of Tel Aviv tonight after the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, fired his Defence Minister who opposed his plan to overhaul the justice system. The plans to limit the power of the judiciary have divided the country and sparked mass protests, angered military and business leaders, and has raised concerns among Israel's allies. Tonight's protest has blocked a main highway. The American actor Jonathan Majors has been arrested in New York on suspicion of strangulation, harassment and assault. He was questioned following an incident involving a 30-year-old woman who was treated in hospital for injuries to her head and neck. Majors, who recently starred in Creed 3 and Ant-Man and the Wasp, denies any wrongdoing. And Spain's first major forest fire of the year has now burned more than 4,000 hectares of land in the east of the country. High temperatures and drought-like conditions have made the fire difficult to control. Weeks after allegations of sexism and misogyny in the Welsh Rugby Union, rugby clubs have voted in favour of major changes to the way the game is run. The changes will modernise the board of the union with the aim of increasing the number of women. The chair of the union described it as another historic day in the 142-year history of the WRU, as Neil Connery reports.
Delegates from Welsh Rugby Union clubs voting today on major changes after calls to widen membership of the sport's governing body in a bid to clean up the game's image.
The Welsh Rugby Union in the last few months is starting to get a very poor reputation for sexism, misogyny, homophobia. We've got to sort that out quickly, because in the 21st century that is just not acceptable.
The Welsh Rugby Union announced an overwhelming vote in favour of the changes, which include the appointment of more women to the 12-member board.
We've said it's an aspiration to have 5 women on the board. Now, it may be a journey. We may get to 3 women, then 4 women, then 5 women, 6 or 7 women. The important thing is that the organisation is open to change.
The women's game is going from strength to strength, with Wales beating Ireland 31-5 this weekend at the start of the Six Nations. Reforming Welsh rugby was very much on fans' minds.
Because it's been long enough now, male-orientated, male-dominated, and I think it's time for change now.
I coach senior rugby, and I think without change, we're in a very, very dark space.
Tonya Antoniazzi, a former Welsh international player and now an MP, has been calling for change.
the culture has to change in the clubs, because until we see that visibility of women in responsible positions on committees in clubs across Wales, then we're not going to see that culture change.
Welsh Rugby Union's governing body hopes today's changes will finally steer the game away from the controversy over sexism, misogyny and racism. Neil Connery, ITV News.
And finally, England have secured another victory in Euro 2024 qualifying, beating Ukraine 2-0 at Wembley this afternoon. Harry Kane added another goal to his record, followed by a stunning strike from Bukayo Saka. But this was a match about far more than football, as Chris Scudder reports.
A poignant day at Wembley, where football and friendship stood side by side. Ukraine backed by 4,000 fans, some of whom were refugees from the war raging in their homelands.
I think it will be more just a football match. It will be about relationships between our countries. It's about great help and an opportunity what Britain gives for us.
To win today, but everybody say for us, Slava Ukraini, Heroyam Slava, and it's support very much. Yeah.
Why are you wearing a
Just
half and half scarf?
Memories, I guess. So look back on it in 20 years. I went to England, Ukraine. So
Yeah.
Show my kids, grandkids, and obviously for the good cause of Ukraine.
Yeah.
Support them.
So with 2 wins out of 2, England remain on course for the Euros next year. But perspective for Ukraine right now, just being able to play their home games in Ukraine remains a distant dream. Chris Scudder, ITV News, Wembley.
And that is all from us for now. The weather is up next, but from me and all the weekend news team, good night.
First thing today will be lovely and warm, and by breakfast time, it could be on the sunny side. Heinz Tomato Ketchup, no added sugar and salt, sponsors ITV National Weather.
Hello again. I hope you had a lovely weekend. A colder feel to our weather over the next few days, starting tonight with a widespread frost and a chilly day to come tomorrow for the whole of the UK. From around Tuesday onwards, temperatures will pick up just a little bit. It's turning more unsettled though from midweek, with wet and windy weather ahead. Tonight, a few icy stretches for northern areas where we've seen wintry showers earlier this evening. A feed of these along North Sea coast for a time, but lots of dry weather as we roll into Monday. Clear skies allowing those temperatures to fall away even in the south, low enough for a widespread ground frost away from towns. Monday will start on a chilly, frosty but beautifully fine note for most places. 1 or 2 showers again for North Sea coast, but inland it should be a largely dry day. You'll notice an infill of cloud though from the west by tomorrow evening, ahead of some wet and windy weather moving in for tomorrow night. That said though, Monday will be a fine day. Just wrap up warm. It is going to feel cold in that northerly wind. Bye-bye.
Heinz Tomato Ketchup, no added sugar and salt, sponsors ITV National Weather.
After listening to representations from Martin Lewis and other experts.
His campaign to the Chancellor changed government policy. Now Martin Lewis is back to continue pressing the people in power and answer your money questions.
Wallet Wednesdays, maybe we'll call them.
Martin Lewis returns Wednesday on Good Morning Britain.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV London Weekend Weather.
Hello there. Very good evening to you. Yes, the lighter evenings are upon us now, although it was a rather grey start first thing this morning with some outbreaks of rain. The rain is starting to clear, or it has cleared, I should say, and overnight tonight we've got high pressure sat in the driving seat of the forecast, which brings us a fairly fine start to the new working week. You will notice, though, the next area of low pressure, the cloud-bearing weather fronts, never too far away, and actually that will drive in the story as we go through Tuesday and the rest of the week too. But with the clear skies overhead, our temperatures are already starting to fall away. A chilly night to come, in fact, just with some patchy amounts of cloud. It will be fairly quiet, though, staying mostly dry as well. And by dawn tomorrow morning, temperatures in some places could even be close to freezing. It does mean, of course, we've got the clear skies as we start tomorrow morning. A fairly fine start to the day. Monday looks to be the best day of the week if you like the dry and fine weather as well. More sunshine through the afternoon, just some patchy clouds starting to develop here and there, but it'll be a dry, quiet day to come with top temperatures of around 7 to 11 degrees Celsius. That's 52 in Fahrenheit. And as we go through the rest of this week, areas of low pressure begin to spin their way in from the southwest, but that does bring us something much milder as we head through the rest of the week too. So if you do like the sunshine, make the most of tomorrow. Good night.
Valent sponsors ITV London Weekend Weather.
Here comes the show to replace your Love Island woe.
How much do you think you ordered? 3.5 grand?
Same place, same time, weeknights at 9. So meet the gold-digging crew, legging it all over ITV2. Loaded in Paradise continues tomorrow at 9 on ITV2 or stream free on ITVX.
Now on ITV1, actors Neil Morrissey and Adrian Dunbar set out to uncover their family histories in DNA Journey.
Personal Discoveries. Ancestry sponsors real-life stories on ITV.
Okay, so that's not a bad day.